done, but
It's looking good. All right, we are live. And it is the first Wednesday in December, last month of the year. A lot of great things happening. We see a lot of great things happening in podcasting and for podcasters, and we've got a great topic for you all today. Let's see.
ready to get started?
I'm well,
Like, no time to waste.
I'm mostly ready. Actually, I need to get my doc up here, which I didn't have up. There it is. Uh, December
Well,
6th,
we're talking
4th.
cross collaboration, so
Oh, I know
it
what we're
can't be
talking
that
about.
much.
No, I know what we're talking about. I just wanted to have the official,
I don't think there's any links or anything in there, so you
no
don't have to worry,
official.
but you're
All right.
wasting our live stream time.
Oh, stop it. It's okay.
I'm ready to go. I don't know about you.
Well, let's go. All right.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome to Feed Your Brand. I'm Tom Hazard, along with my co-host Tracy Hazard, and today we're going to talk about collaborating your way to podcast cross promotion. Really, as independent podcasters, that is and should be, I guess, our superpower as podcasters, cross promoting, because there's such great opportunities there. What do you think, Tracy?
Well, yeah, because look, we don't have the power of a network or power of a big budget. So if we're independent, we've got to create those opportunities to cross promote our shows. And there's a lot of ways to do it. And what we're really going to talk about is I'm going to call them non-prepaid stuff. So in other words, we're not talking about stuff that you pay to be positioned within. You might pay on the other side. You might pay a commission or an affiliate. You might pay something on the other side of it when it achieves something, but you're definitely not prepaying to be a part of any of these things. These are cross collaborations. So like you're each benefiting from those things.
You might think of it as a mini joint venture, really, too, right? It's something that's mutually beneficial and not necessarily costing either party any real money, but maybe would cost a little effort, right?
Right. Now, for the most part, podcasting is kind of built this way if you do the interview model. It's built for collaboration, right? That's its whole built for cross promotion, right? That's the idea. I'm using other people's audiences in some way, shape, or form, and they're using mine. So that's the guesting model in and of itself is collaborative cross promotion. But most people do it wrong.
Really? Well, I'm curious. How are people doing it wrong? And then what would doing it right look like?
So, look, there's different guest models, but if you're using guesting to grow audience from cross promotion, meaning you expect your guest to share your show and then those people to come and subscribe to your show, which causes audience growth, right? Like that's the model. You're not using your guesting to get clients like it's a funnel, right? That's a different model. But where we're talking about a cross promotion model, then we have to spend more time on our guest selection process. And that's where most people go wrong. They aren't choosing guests who would make, as you just put it, mini joint venture partners. They don't make good partners.
So if you just take anybody, the level of success will be maybe randomly good and randomly not so good.
Right. So, right here on Feature Brand, how many guests do we have a year?
Very few, half a dozen.
Half a dozen, if that, right?
Yeah.
And we invite them on more than once. So like we definitely have a sort of cross promotion model where it recurs, but we are very selective about who we choose to come on. And that is a very different model than what we do on the Binge Factor, for example, which is much more of a it's a more of a funnel process, more of a different type of guesting process, right? So when we are looking for someone, we're really looking for somebody who's in it for the long haul with us in terms of cross promotion because cross promotion works better in podcasting if it's done over time rather than a one hit. So guesting is one level. So if you do cross promotion guesting, and so like let's say I'm going to interview everyone within my niche, right? Like so like that's great. I'm going to interview all these other people who are servicing the same audience base. That's one level. So you have a matched audience and you all do different things within that to that audience and you're very clear about that audience, right? That's one level of guesting and cross promotion.
Now, to just add an important point of emphasis to that first level, Tracy, if you are one of these podcasters that has guests on a regular basis, if you are not creating materials, in particular, I would say, graphics, if you're not creating resources, maybe video clips, if you're doing video on your podcast also, if you're not creating materials and assets to incentivize that guest to share your show, you're not helping yourself. You need to create those things and give them to the guest, make it easy for them and make them look really good so they want to share it if you're going to get the most out of that level one. Just little pro tip there.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's like it also everything, the messaging around it, the styling of it, everything has to be matched to what that audience is interested in, not what your show's about. And that's where we get a little too self-branding about everything and everybody's trying to push their brand into that audience. It doesn't work. It's a lot of competition. So if we're really more focused on sharing the audience from where their pain is, where their needs are, where their outcomes are, where their desires are, and you're all serving that, you're doing a better job of choosing that. So, like, we have a great partnership with Juliet Clark, Superbrand Publishing, and we're all focused on talking to authors and specifically self published and self marketing authors. So, we're very focused on who they are and what they need from us. They need marketing tactics. They need content marketing. They need abilities to have promotion and publicity. And like they need all of those things and they have low budgets to do it. So we're all really focused on the same thing. So there's an alignment in the goal for that audience. And we understand that and everyone's meeting the expectations of that audience. We all understand it and we all have something to provide. What we also have is non-overlap. So she's got a wonderful magazine called Breakthrough Author Magazine. And in that magazine, we've got all these different aspects of things. So there's somebody who might be running things about LinkedIn, another who might be running publicity programs, another who's running a network, another one who's running the publishing side of things, right? And YouTube, and then us with the podcasting information. So you've got like all of those different things running together. There's not a lot of overlap. So you're not getting conflicting messages to that audience as well. That's really where there's an alignment of goals, an alignment of audience. And I would throw in two more things that I really think is really important: an alignment in communication and an alignment in integrity. And we have worked with Juliet Clark for a really long time. So we know she's a great communicator. She's a great writer. She writes really great emails to her audience. She shares things in a really great way. So we know that we're getting good success in how she's talking. She's not pushing messages into them that are hard and pushy and just not our style. So when we have an alignment in that communication, there's an alignment in the energy to the audience. We are more likely to be a right fit for her audience, and she's more likely to be a right fit for ours because of that alignment. And then when I say alignment and integrity, she delivers on what she says she could do because that's a direct reflection on us. Anything your partners do, no matter how much you say, hey, it's up to you. You have a separate contract with them. It's still a reflection on you for making the recommendation.
Which really, it makes it very clear that if you're going to have someone be kind of a recurring guest, a regular guest, or somebody that you do some sort of a mini joint venture partnership with to do this cross promotion, you better have experience with them. You better know who you're doing this with because, customers' user experience is going to reflect on you.
Right. And so this is why this is different. And Tom mentioned the word joint venture than affiliation. Affiliation is very like you just send out to your list and you don't care about your list and you're just going to send out my promotion and hopefully we're going to get some hit. And that's a one-way and transactional view of it. Collaboration is different. It's got to have a win-win. It's got to have a integrity between the two parties. Like it's got to have more to it to make it really work well. And so that complementary relationship that you're building too, I think is ideal. If you're overlapping, then that there's too much competition for what's going to work. And not that I'm opposed to competition. I think it's a good thing in the marketplace in general, but it can confuse messaging and it can confuse where you play in things if there's too much information going in that is competing with the audience's view of what you want to say to them. So like you need to make sure you have a direct conduit for that particular content and topic area. I also want to say that there has to be some amount of co-marketing involved in this. So it's not just the podcast is it. And that's what Tom was mentioning before. Like this idea that there has to be more to it in general. So that's kind of what I want to spend the rest of our coaching time on is like the more, right? All those other things that you could do.
Yeah, those next levels you're talking
Right,
about
because
beyond just the obvious, right?
right. And everyone that we're going to talk about is designed to not only maximize the promotion without doing more work on the content side because you recorded the podcast, right? Like that's the ideal of it. Or you recorded the, like in this way, the live stream, right? You recorded the level of content on it already. So that's one thing. But the more stuff has to be not just more in terms of like more times putting it out and getting more touch points with the audience. That's important. But it also has to do more to further your collaborative relationship. It has to show that I'm in it to care for the partner because I want them to care about promoting me. Right. So it has to have that collaboration and give and take on there to be a true win-win opportunity. Because what do we find, Tom? When we used to work in product business and it's like you'd get yourself in some catalog and you get this giant group of sales reps, but there was like hundreds of products in those catalogs. And the reps out there would go for the fastest, easiest path to a sale.
And in fact, when a sales rep like that would suggest your product to them, if the customer in any way expresses any disinterest or doubt and skepticism in that product, that sales rep is going to drop your product like a hot potato and move on to whatever else he thinks they would buy now.
Right.
So it's
Anything I
not,
don't have to explain, I don't have to like do it's going to be faster and easier. But if there's something in it for me because of mentioning you means that you're going to mention me, there's something in it for me, you can get over that stage of that transactional relationship. That's that affiliate relationship, right? You're going to get past that into this collaborative. So that's what we're talking about here. Everything we're designed is to maximize so you get the most out of the content you created, but you also get the most out of this collaborative attitude and relationship that you're building that is a marathon. I just want to be clear on this. This is not something that is slow. Anyone who expects me to to do 3 emails in 3 days and do it this way, that's a transactional relationship. And I absolutely say no. I refuse to do it. If we planned and it's a part of the program of what we're doing, totally in it, it's going to happen. They're going to get those emails, but we're going to have time to build up to that so that I understand what that relationship needs to be. I'm not going to copy and paste something and just bombard my audience with it. So that's what we're looking for here in all of these different things. So I'm going to go over a couple of them. They're not in any kind of order. I'm like kind of because some things might mean more to your business than others. Like, so even though I like these things and I put some of them first that I prefer to do, it doesn't mean they're right for you or right for your audience.
so there's less of a priority order. This is the first, this is second, third. It's really what's the right fit for you and the relationship you're building, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you have to remember that, like, I'm really strong on LinkedIn and maybe somebody's really strong on Instagram. And so it makes a great relationship for me to do more of my Instagram things. I mean, do more of my LinkedIn things for the Instagram person and for them to do more of the Instagram things for me. So like there could be a dovetail kind of win-win as well in what you want to do. So some of these things won't apply. And so when I say that, I'm talking Instagram and the social side of things. Whenever you can do a collaboration, and Instagram has a collab, but so does events. So if I want to have Juliet, as we were talking about before, Fran Acero, I want to have her come on and I can send out our event, our live stream event, and send them a link that links it into their LinkedIn so that they are shown as a speaker at the event. And now we have a much more collaborative process, which means as the event comes forward and all of the promotion that happens along the event, LinkedIn's pushing it out into both of our audiences. So you want to keep in mind that to do those things. And so if you're like us, where you have so few guests on, and when you do, it's a big deal because they're going to talk about something really cool that we don't get to talk about often, like YouTube with Fran, right? So we want to make sure that we promote that out as best we can. So doing one of these collabs is really important because it's tagging and showing to their audience. So we want to amp up what we do on social, and whenever we have an opportunity to do a collab, we want to do it.
So what might that collab look like, Tracy, from like a practical perspective? What would you
So
do on
technically,
LinkedIn, maybe?
yeah. So technically, when I create a Restream event, and that's what we use to distribute out because there's no live stream straight without a third party into LinkedIn, into YouTube, into some of those other platforms because we restream to all of them at the same time, right? So when I use Restream, there's a secondary share. So I can actually share and give a link that I invite my guest on. And then when they do that, it automatically adds them to the event. Now, in Restream, you have to have an account, but you can have a guest account. Like it doesn't have to be a paid account. So you do have to sign in there, but you'll get that link and it'll automatically almost like redisplay. So you can go deeper than that, or you can go straight into LinkedIn and you could just add them as a speaker. So there's other ways to do that as well. In Instagram, it's simply a tag and they have to just accept the collab on the other side. And all of a sudden their audiences see all the posts. Like it's super, it's active from the stand that you have to accept the collab, but beyond that, you don't have to do anything. So you do want to give them a warning to say, hey, I did this today. Make sure you look at your email or make sure you look in your Instagram or your LinkedIn and accept these things.
So Tracy, I'm starting to see where some of this is going because, we always hear sometimes from customers, well, I don't understand. I had this great guest that has this huge following on Instagram and I have no more downloads for that episode. Well, it may have been more of a transactional or one-way relationship, not as much of a collab. Here, you're talking about you and the guest actually tagging each other, which takes some cooperation and willingness to do that. And if you can get them motivated to do that, then each of your audiences is going to see everything that's happening related to that event from the other, right? Or from both of you, rather. Each of your audience is going to see everything.
Exactly. And when we do a swap, so a lot of times I'll go on Juliet's show, she'll come on our show, like that happens all the time. When we do those things, we also can create think of it like an Instagram story. So you create almost like a slideshow, right? You can do it in LinkedIn, you could do it in Facebook, you could do it in Instagram. But you're creating this where I'm sharing her episode on our show, my episode on her show, and I'm sharing both at the same time, so that we're showing this deep cross collaboration and that we are much more aligned than me just pushing out and promoting something. So hear what Juliet has to say about this, and then hear what I said about that. And so we're really focusing in on that author audience then when we're doing that. So those things can be really valuable as well. So thinking about taking the content you already have and tweaking that, and how can you group it together and share multiple things. So we do this with the Breakthrough Author Magazine. There are lots of our other partners and people that we work with. And so whenever I share the magazine on a monthly basis, I write an article. So I share, of course, the magazine itself. I share an article that I wrote. I share the theme that Juliet has set, which is usually tied to her article that's in there. And then I share 2 more people within it. So I share 2 more articles. So I've got 5 shares over the course of a month before the next issue comes out that I'm sharing various things. And some of them, they're collaboratives where I'm picking other people who I don't necessarily have a deep relationship yet, but I'd like to build that up over time. So that's also something to remember, is that when you're doing these things and you want to have a deeper relationship, give first, share first.
Huge point, Tracy, that I, want to make sure our listeners don't really miss that one, okay? Because here's the thing, as a podcaster, you have things to give. You have content you're creating. You know, you want to build a relationship with an organization that has a website and maybe they don't have a podcast. Pretty much every podcaster has a player that can be embedded on a website, and you can invite that organization, that website, to offer for free your content on their website if they embed a player on a page on their website. You'd be surprised how many of them are willing to do it, and how probably nobody has ever asked that organization to do it before. You have something to give, you can give first and start to build that type of relationship or a collaboration going forward.
Right. And that means that you also have to go beyond. And that's what Tom was mentioning before. You go beyond just like sharing it one time. You want to share it again and again and again. And so we share and kind of compound these things. And like I said, we group them together. And then the next thing we do is we also make sure it's in the website, it's in the podcast, it's on YouTube. Like, we've done all kinds of linking to get those cross links between our two companies, or two individuals, if that's what it is, two entrepreneurs, making sure all of that is occurring so that it's going beyond social to the deeper, more stable things that are searchable on the internet, right? And so we want to make sure that those things are happening. So we build that in long term through all the pieces of content, but we're always doing it. Look at what I just did today, is I've given an opportunity to cross-link more Juliet and more Fran today, because I want to make sure that we're driving people, not just this, but deep into our content and through to there. But I'm also giving them yet another backlink, yet another cross-link between our companies that's not related to the single episode that they were in. So we're doing this on an ongoing basis. So we're always teaching and doing at the same time here, and that's exactly what we're being very meta about it here. So when we create the content and promote the content from our partners, we also want to go beyond that in ways that we can do that. I write a lot of articles that are spun off of the content. So Juliet and I are going to do an episode coming up, and I said, why don't we do an article about that after? And she was like, why didn't I think of that? Right. And so, like, thinking about ways at which you could do it. But there are other simpler ways to share their content without having to do a lot of work. So my social team is always on the outlook through a handful of partners to go and reshare things that they think is valuable, especially things that might be a tie-in where there's something that came in for about YouTubers that relates to podcasters, so that where we could do the things so we can comment on it and make a post in a way that says, and if you're a podcaster, you want to do this, the same way. So we're sharing something that's valuable tip for our audience as well. And so we're tying into those things. So we're always looking for that. But one of the easiest, most passive ways I found over the last year to do it is to add our newsletter. So because I can simply take a feed from any one of our partners and put that feed in, and it automatically goes, because it's an AI generated. So if you're interested in YouTube, you're going to get a lot of Fran stuff. If you're an author, you're going to get a lot of Juliet stuff over the course of the year. But I don't have to do any work. As long as they're pushing out content, it's showing up in the feed and being added to the newsletter. So I'm doing this for another organization, a nonprofit group, where they have all these sponsorship and founding partners. And all of those founding partners each have their own feed within there, and they can be featured in a section on the newsletter, or they can just be added to the general feed and feed into anyone who's interested in a specific area.
That's something we're going to have to do an episode coming up in the future, Tracy. And I think we may have already planned it, but this whole newsletter and the AI application of newsletter makes it so easy to do these collabs you're talking about, to have this cooperation and collaboration and serve more people with more content, and really without much effort at all on your part. So that's something we're going to be talking about more, because we're doing more of that here at Podetize, and going to be recommending it to really all podcasters that are wanting to grow the the value they're providing to their community and their audience.
Right. And that's where I really want to also remind you that even when you don't have a relationship with someone yet, like that, but you've done something like this and you're mentioning it, this is exactly how we got a relationship with our AI newsletter partner, Rasa. We got a relationship with them because we actually did a coaching call about how we'd been using it and what we'd been doing. And when I shared it, I forgot to share it with them when we did the original episode. I mean, because we aren't in the model of doing interviews, we didn't interview them. There was none of that process. We just talked about them. But they don't always know you talked about them. So when I shared back the article that was written about it and the podcast that was done on it, they went absolutely nuts over it. They were so excited about it. They've been sharing it. Then they gave me a feed that I could share that was specifically for our audience. It was like a custom list. It was fantastic. And so we've been sharing that and building this to the next level partnership, of which we're going to announce next year. So like that's really great that we were able to build that up, and we did that by some high level sharing. Then that's the next step that I want to talk about, is like once you start establish this like general share back and forth thing that you're doing, this cross collaboration, this cross promotion, when you get beyond that level, what's next? And the next idea is to start to create content together. Actively come up with ideas for you to create content together. So we do that. We call it coaching crashers, but in social media world, they call it takeovers. And you take over their social channel or their TikTok for the day. And so you essentially get on and you're talking to their audience, right? That's what a coaching crasher is for us, is they get on and we guide the conversation and we interject as if we're the audience asking questions. But the coaching crasher is the expert for the day. And so we do that all the time throughout the year. We have that planned. We plan out exactly the content. It's aligned to what they think they're offering in terms of maybe some services, but it's also aligned to what they think the market needs right at the moment in time, what the biggest lesson can be. So I'm about to do that. Juliet messaged me a week ago, and we wanted to talk about why authors need podcasts instead of paid media. And so we're talking about it in terms of looking at that, why that's going to be more valuable going forward than paid media, which is kind of something people are looking at pretty skeptically right now. And so how can you get in and promote your books? You need podcasts more than ever. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to spin that off into an article, and she's going to be able to utilize that for more things that she has planned. And we've done a collaboration in the creation of that content to begin with.
That's fantastic, Tracy. I like that, creating content together. A great way to cross promote. It is more of that mini joint venture relationship that I'm talking about. So, or was talking about earlier. So makes perfect sense. And so it also makes it more fun, I think, especially if you're a podcaster that's a single host. Now, for you and me being co-hosts, we get to do this a lot together, and I think it makes it more fun. But still, when it's just the two of us every time, that's, not a lot of
I want to bring in
cooperation and
variety.
collaboration. Not a lot of cross promotion coming from both of us that are a part of Podetize. So you've
But it
got
does
to put
help.
yourself out there.
It does help that we have two different personalities on social media. And so co hosting is a way that you can collaborate. And so we have seen two people where they're co hosting together. So if you don't feel like you can do your own show, maybe you can collaborate to do a show together. That might be something. And then you could each take 2 days a month, and then you could do a bonus episode where you're together. So that's also something you could think about doing. So it's a great way to do it. We've seen other coaches who are aligned with the same mission, but they have two different areas of expertise. We tend to see it in health and fitness a lot more than other areas, but we do where one takes on the health conversation and one takes on the fitness conversation, but they collaborate together.
Well, and we even have a podcast that we support here on Podetize that has two chiropractors that are in the same specialty area, but in two different geographic locations in the country. So they're cooperating and collaborating, talking about the same things in agreement and alignment with each other. Pardon the pun, because they're chiropractors. But that they are serving together, which makes it more fun. And they're each benefiting because guess what? They're really in local businesses while they're podcasting and reaching people nationally and even internationally. They're each able to benefit from that, and they're helping each other with each other's local patient outreach and audience. And actually, it's working well for them.
Yeah. So those are some things to like take it to the next level of things where you're
Yeah.
really doing that sort of creating content. Another area I like is to create I'm going to call it a preview. So rather than do a webinar, a typical webinar where you drive your audience and you say, here, go, here's my partner. I want to drive them to a webinar to talk about, how we use YouTube or how you might use the newsletter, or drive them to this webinar that is too generic. We create a custom introduction. And so that's something that we do more and more of. We kind of call them master classes or mini master classes, really, where we might do a mini master class and then invite the conversation where they have a one-on-one review or one-on-one meeting. And so by going through that master class first or that mini master class first, and then going into it, you're going with a high level of high touch introduction, more likely to become a client. It lowers the amount of touch points you have to have as if I just sent them to your general webinar. And so we do that very often with it. So it's a much more personalized handoff.
Okay. You got anything else on the
No, so I've
agenda
got
there?
no more tactics on this side,
Okay.
but the one thing I do want you to remind you is that this is not a short-term thing. If you expect to see immediate sales, if you're expecting to see immediate referrals, if you're expecting to see this, then you're not doing it right. Like those things should come and they will happen, but it can be a slower ramp up to a higher level than you would do before. So you might have gotten a little blip, but then it's gone.
Okay.
We want to see something that's sustainably growing over time. And so we do watch this, measure and track it. We see how many referrals are we getting, if you're tracking commissions or affiliation or whatever that might be. You want to track that over time. But I'm less concerned about that as I am the satisfaction level and the growth of my client base who's been referred to our partners. That's what we look at. So we decided on a different metric than the money being made or the number of referrals. What we instead said is the satisfaction level high for the people we've referred out and for the people that have been referred into us, so that they last and they podcast longer. So we've created sustainability for the podcast that goes beyond our ability. We can't make people record. That's the one thing we've discovered here. But if it becomes an integral part of their book promotion program, their YouTube growth and monetization, their ability to serve their membership base, any of those things mean that they'll be podcasting for a much longer time and we haven't had to provide a specific service for it. It's of great benefit to us. And it does add to our bottom line because longevity matters. And so that's what we've decided and measured over time. You might have a different metric. You might have something else that you're looking for. And each relationship is different. So sometimes we measure the relationship in transactions and dollar value, and others we measure in how much promotion, how many people showed up to our coaching call because they promoted us and shared us. And so there's different things that you might have at different stages of collaboration as well. So keep that in mind. But we do always look at it. There is a measurement in place. It's not just this sort of like, I feel good about this. We want to feel good about it, but we also want to have some kind of metric on the other side of it.
I do like measurable results, and it's not always like you said, there's different ways to measure, and there may be certain things that are more long term and more important than the short term, maybe more transactional measurement, but I do like measuring results. One other thing I want to mention for any new listeners of Feed Your Brand, because you may not have, gone back and searched through past episodes or, binged through some of our stuff, although you may want to, is that there are a couple episodes that we've done in the past, and you're going to want to search on that are related to something we call ego bait. And for that low first level of guest cooperation and collaboration, that's something every podcaster should be doing. It's one of those things you can do to incentivize your guests to not just share the show, but make it super easy for them to do something on their website that actually connects to your website and provides value for both of you in the eyes of Google and SEO. So I'm not going to go into the details of it, but on podcastersunited.org, where our blog is for this episode, once you go into any of our blogs, there is a search feature. You can search on pretty much any topic and see all the past episodes that we've done. And EgoBait's one you're going to want to check out for that.
And the point of Ego Bait is that it's not about what's in it for me, it's about what's in it for us together and for having conversations with that shared audience. So the incentive to share starts with this idea that it is a collaboration and that we are winning, not I am winning. That's a big difference in mindset. And then when you can put yourself into that place, the cross promotion and collaboration way of podcasting can be so much more successful.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Thanks for listening, everybody. And remember, podcastersunited.org is where you'll find all the links to everything we talked about today and any of our past episodes as well related to this topic or anything else you may want to listen to.
And that is where you see all of our collaborative sponsors. That's exactly where you see that, where our relationship, our partners, those are all there on that website as well, because Podcasters United is a group, a community, a membership. And when we're in it together, we have everything we need to win as podcasters.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next time with another great episode on Feed Your Brand. All right, so we're going to end the live stream and then have some questions to answer here from Podetize members of our community that are here live with us. For those of you out on social media, we'll see you again next week. And remember, if you want to be a part of the group, you just need to be a Podcasters United member or work with Podetize. And you go to podetize.com/events. Is there also Podcasters United/events, Tracy, for this?
There is podcastersunited.org/events.
.org.
Yes.
Did I say that wrong?
Yeah, just to make sure, just to clarify that. But yes,
Right.
There's a /events for both of them. And if you go to either of them, they get to the same